I found out my coworker got promoted while I was still fixing her mistakes because my boss announced it casually, like weather. I didn't argue, I didn't protest, I just finished writing something he hadn't bothered to read yet. If you've ever been overlooked while carrying the real weight, stay with me. And subscribe, because this story ends where they thought it was already finished. I work in publishing, not the glamorous movie version kind with cocktails and rooftop launches. I work in academic and professional publishing, the kind that survives on deadlines, accuracy, and invisible labor. The kind where the person who talks the loudest gets credit and the person who fixes everything stays unnamed. I'm Maribel Knox, Senior Editorial Coordinator at Calder and Finch. Or I was. Titles shifted quickly after that week. I'd been there 6 years. 6 years of catching errors before print, managing author tantrums, rebuilding schedules that collapsed because someone forgot time zones existed. 6 years of turning half-formed ideas into clean, profitable manuscripts without my name ever leaving the internal tracker. My coworker, Delia Crane, had been there too. Delia was charming, loud laughing, always circling back. She missed deadlines the way some people miss exits, frequently and without shame. Her inbox was a graveyard of unread emails. Her manuscripts came back bleeding red ink, which I quietly fixed because launches don't wait for accountability. I told myself it didn't matter. Publishing is cumulative. Eventually, people notice patterns. That was my first mistake. The promotion announcement came on a Tuesday during our weekly status meeting. No build-up, no metrics, just our director, Howard Bell, smiling over his glasses. "We're elevating Delia to managing editor," he said. "She brings energy and leadership presence we want to encourage." Energy, leadership presence. I looked at my notes. The production delays I'd resolved, the author crisis I'd handled alone the week before, the contract amendment I'd rewritten overnight so legal wouldn't pull the book entirely. Howard didn't look at me. He never did when delivering disappointment. Delia squealed, literally squealed. Everyone clapped. I clapped too. Once. Slowly. Controlled. After the meeting, Delia leaned into my cubicle. "Guess we'll be working even closer now," she said, like it was a gift. I smiled and said nothing, because by then I already knew something she didn't. 3 months earlier, Howard had assigned me a side project, audit our editorial pipeline. Just to identify inefficiencies, he'd said. No deadline, no visibility, no one else looped in. I took it seriously. Too seriously. I mapped every delay, every redundant approval, every quiet workaround editors like me used to keep the machine running. I documented which steps existed only because certain people never did their jobs right the first time. I wrote it all down, not as a complaint, as a manual. 112 pages, process maps, failure points, cost leakage, author churn tied directly to missed editorial interventions. Names weren't highlighted, but patterns were obvious to anyone who could read past page 10. I submitted it 2 weeks before Delia's promotion. Howard replied, "Received. Will review." He didn't. The week after the announcement, things broke immediately. Delia tried to streamline the workflow by removing a quality control step she didn't understand. A legal reviewer flagged an issue, an author threatened to pull their book, production froze. Howard called me into his office. "Can you just fix this?" he asked. "Not help. Fix." I did, quietly. Again. That night, I went home and opened the manual, and I added a final section. Case study. What happens when process is replaced by personality? I didn't name Delia. I didn't need to. The timeline spoke for itself. Then I printed it, bound it, and slid it into Howard's inbox with a sticky note. Updated version. Please read through the end. The next week was chaos. Delia missed a licensing deadline, then another. She blamed vendors, she blamed software, she blamed legacy systems, which was funny considering I was the legacy system. Authors started emailing me directly again. "Are you still overseeing this?" they asked. I forwarded everything to Delia, every time. She stopped responding. On Friday afternoon, Howard called an emergency meeting. Delia talked for 20 minutes without saying anything measurable. Buzzwords, vision, culture. Then Howard raised a hand. "Maribel," he said, "can you walk us through why 3 projects are now off track?" I stood, calm, prepared. "I can," I said, "but it's already documented." Howard frowned. "Where?" "In the audit," I said. "Page 46 onward." Silence. That was the moment I knew. He hadn't read it. After the meeting, Howard didn't leave, didn't pack up. He just sat there, flipping through the printed pages I'd left days earlier. I watched him reach the last page. He stopped turning pages. Actually stopped. His face changed. Not anger, not embarrassment. Recognition. The kind that hits when it's already too late. He called me that evening. "Maribel," he said carefully, "why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" I didn't raise my voice. I said, "I did. You just didn't read far enough." Monday morning, Delia was absent. Personal day, HR said. By Wednesday, 2 senior editors had resigned. They cited operational instability. Howard asked me to step in temporarily. I declined. Instead, I handed him a letter. It wasn't a resignation, it was notice of transition. Because while Calder and Finch promoted energy, another publisher had been reading every page, quietly. The manual, I wrote, I'd anonymized it and submitted it months earlier to Redwood Ledger, a mid-sized but ruthless competitor known for operational precision. They didn't skim. They asked questions, real ones. They didn't offer me a promotion. They offered me authorship. Director of Editorial Systems, full authority, my name on the framework, my methods taught, not borrowed. When Howard realized what was happening, he tried to negotiate. "Come back," he said. "We'll adjust your title." I shook my head. I said, "You already did. You just gave it to the wrong person." Delia returned a week later, then left again. Official statement, mutual parting. Unofficial truth, she'd never actually known how anything worked. The fallout was brutal. Books delayed, contracts lost, authors migrated, some directly to Redwood Ledger, asking for my name. Howard emailed once more, long, apologetic, full of hindsight. I replied with one sentence. "You stopped at the last page." At Redwood, my first project launched on time, the second under budget, the third redefined their entire pipeline. They didn't call me sharp-edged, they called me precise. 6 months later, Calder and Finch quietly retired the role Delia had held. No announcement, no applause, just silence. Which finally wasn't mine anymore.